See, how many of you have given the test yesterday? So those who have not given, you can write it today, or you can take home and write it at home. कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. ओपन बुक लिखो, बट लेट अस सी कि कितने अच्छे आंसर लिख पा रहे हो तुम लोग. राइट, अभी तो टेस्ट इज ओनली फॉर 2 आवर्स, उसमें 6 क्वेश्चंस है. धीरे धीरे आई विल इंक्रीज द क्वेश्चन. एंड कुड यू कंप्लीट द टेस्ट पेपर? कितना हुआ? लास्ट के 4 क्वेश्चन रह गए या कंप्लीट लिख लिए? शॉर्ट नोट नहीं लिख पाए? यू? अच्छा, सी द टेस्ट पेपर वाज फॉर हाउ मेनी मार्क्स? 150. How many hours? 2 hours. UPSC will give you 250 marks for 3 hours. Hours thoda kam eco for 3 hours. So this was the extra time you have got. You should have completed the paper in this 2 hours. One question I had asked you regarding the plate tectonic theory. One question was regarding the paleomagnetism. So एक mind map ready होना चाहिए, what the diagrams etc. So I will encourage you all to write the test paper. Fine, चाहे घर पे लिखो, चाहे आज क्लास के बाद लिखो, या you write it और थोड़ा कम करो. You write it after tomorrow's class. There is a classroom which is there. You can take the test paper home, study it and write it here. Fine, not कि 3.5 घंटे बैठ के लिख रहे हो. No, it should be in the time, but you can study the questions and then write it. कि पता चलेगा कि anyways क्योंकि एग्जाम में हमें लिखना है. So these are the questions we know and this is the answer. It should be ready in mind, but do write the tests. Now from next Saturday etc., if our class is clashing with current affairs or any other class, especially the current affairs, अब आपके पास choice है. You will have to choose one. एक वीडियो देखो, चाहे ऑप्शनल हो या फिर करंट अफेयर्स हो, बिकॉज आगे जाके ऐसे क्लैशेस होने वाले हैं. सो बेटर देन दैट विल स्टार्ट नाउ. देयर विल बी टेस्ट सीरीज डिस्कशन एक्सेट्रा. या फिर यू अटेंड एट 5:30. 5:30 to 8 is too late. दैट इज वाई करंट अफेयर्स के यू कैन सी द वीडियोज, या यहाँ पे डिस्कशन हो रहा है तो यू कैन सी द वीडियोज. यहाँ पे अगर ऐसा टॉपिक है विच यू ऑलरेडी नो, यू कैन सी वन वीडियो ऑफ दैट. I could not take on Friday because I had to go home for a day. Actually, I wanted to go home for my mains, state services. I went home also, but my parents did not allow me to write the state services, saying that now you have kid, you are married, you are no longer a student, so be fixed only on one this thing. So इसलिए मुझे धक्का देके उन्होंने सैटरडे को रवाना कर दिया. प्रीलिम्स इसलिए लिख पाया था बिकॉज आई डिडंट टेल देम. महाराष्ट्र सिविल सर्विस प्रीलिम्स में हर साल देता हूँ, मुझे शौक है एग्जाम देने का. सो आई विल गो एंड सिट फॉर हरियाणा आल्सो, बट वो देने नहीं जाता, मैं मेंस नहीं देने जाता. सो दिस इज द आइडिया. अदरवाइज आज भी क्लास नहीं होती. फाइन, बट इफ आई टेल एनीवन, मैम को भी शॉक लग गया था फिर जब पता लग गया था कि आई एम राइटिंग द मेंस. तो so ultimately it was decided not to do. The reason I did not write is not because my parents etc. I was not well prepared for the mains. See, clearing prelims is a different thing, getting rank in the mains is different thing. Mains pass भी हो जाता है, इंटरव्यू पिछले से पिछले साल पे गया था, it does not get converted into the final rank. So for this mains का exam, there is a high competition in any of the state services, and the studies are totally different. So that is one of the reason. Now coming back to the mountain building, but I'll share some tricks. मैं इसलिए ये बता रहा हूँ, when you will come for the prelims, clearing prelims is easy. The only thing is you have to keep the head cool. जो भी साल भर का revision है, you have to revise it very properly. Just standard books say you have to do it very properly. Keep the head very cool in the exam. Don't do silly mistakes in the examination. Whether you attempt less question also, make sure that you don't do silly mistakes. Prelims is very easy. Prelims generally पढ़ाई के बाद clear इसलिए नहीं होता because दो चीज़ें हैं, डर जाते हैं वहाँ पे जाके. You solve X number of test series, but वहाँ पे जाके you feel afraid कि अगर नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा. ये डर निकल जाना चाहिए मन में से. उसके लिए एक ट्रिक होता है, whenever you go to the exam center, go to the washroom. There is a mirror there. Wash your face just before the exam center and affirmative statement दो, क्या होगा ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा, फेल हो जाऊंगा but I won't be afraid. Ultimately एकदम mindset change हो जाता है because you are no longer afraid and then your exam paper is very very proper. Else टेंशन में यू मेक सो मेनी मिस्टेक्स क्योंकि स्टार्टिंग के 10-15 मिनट आपको पता ही नहीं चलता कि क्वेश्चंस कैसे आ गए एंड उसमें ही द गेम इज ओवर. फाइन. सो दिस आर सम ऑफ द ट्रिक्स फॉर सॉल्विंग. अभी से इफ यू आर सॉल्विंग द एमसीक्यूज इट इज फाइन. इवन इफ यू डोंट सॉल्व द एमसीक्यूज देन ऑल्सो इट इज फाइन. बट मेक श्योर दैट यू आर नॉट अफ्रेड ऑफ एनी ऑफ द एग्जामिनेशन. एंड हाउ टू नॉट बी अफ्रेड, जितने टेस्ट सीरीज है मार्केट में सब उठाने होते हैं और सब सॉल्व करने होते हैं. फाइन. So coming to the mountain building, that is we are going to do the plate tectonics and mountain building. And in which period? Tertiary period there were young fold mountains and there were the old mountains also, and the oldest mountain, that is the Aravallis. Regarding the oldest mountain, I told you we will do this along with the plate tectonic theory but in paper 2 Indian geography. Now regarding the old and the tertiary fold mountains as well as island arcs, we are going to see the answer and then check how you have written the answer. Those who have written the test, वैसे 3 ही लोग हैं जिन्होंने टेस्ट लिखा है. Fine. So you see how you have written the answer regarding the formation of Appalachia. I had asked you Himalayas and the island arc. So when you start this question, don't directly start with the tertiary young fold mountain. You should remember there were 3 different periods of mountain building. The 3 different periods of the mountain building were Hercynian mountains, Caledonian mountains and the tertiary mountains. The oldest fold mountains are generally known as the Caledonian mountains and they were formed before the Pangaea. Pangaea was created and destroyed. Fine. So when we regard the age, I told you in the last lecture there are 3 types of mountains: fold mountains, fault mountains and relic mountains. When the question comes on the mountain building, you should forget volcanic mountains, you should forget relic mountains, you should forget block mountains. The question is regarding the fold mountains. So as per the age, we distinguish the fold mountains into young fold mountains and the old fold mountains. Old fold mountains ka example is Appalachian and Urals and the Aravallis. And the young fold mountains ka example is Andes, Rockies, etc. Fine. So take down this statement. The plate tectonic theory has removed the shortcomings of earlier theories, such as geosyncline theory, and have been able to properly explain even the oldest mountains such as Precambrian mountains. Oldest mountains such as the Precambrian mountains. On the basis of age, the mountains are divided into, draw a diagram, don't write anything, but see a diagram is more than enough. Are divided into Precambrian, Example, Aravallis, Caledonian, Hercynian, and tertiary young fold mountains. Where is Altun Shan? China. Tain Shan, Altun Shan, ये है Hercynian mountains. Fine with this? So take an example, diagram मत draw करना, this is just for your understanding. India में Aravallis Precambrian. So आज क्या है? Relict. These are young fold mountains. Trans Himalayas, young fold mountains, just like Himalayas, just थोड़ा पहले. But इसके ऊपर are the Tain Shan, Altun Shan, Kunlun Shan, Hindu Kush. This all are Hercynian mountain. We do not have Caledonian mountain in India, but Caledonian mountain you already know is Appalachians. कहाँ पे है? USA में. Fine. अब general theory of plate tectonic, how does it explain the mountain building? Can someone tell me how does it explain the mountain building? कौन सा plate margin? Divergent, convergent. Convergent. Convergent में which plates? Continent, continent या ocean, continent या both? Both, both. No, both. Rockies, Andes are an example of ocean-continent convergence, and Himalayas ही है which is an example of an continent-continent convergence. So plate tectonics and mountain building. You can take down till the time I make the diagram. The mountain building is associated with the convergent plate margins, convergent plate boundaries associated with ocean continent collision, associated with ocean continent collision, as well as continent collision, as well as continent collision. when the two plates collide, when the two plates collide, in an ocean continent collision, in an ocean continent collision, huge amount of sediments, huge amount of sediments are deposited, are deposited initially in a geosyncline, initially in a geosyncline, full stop, due to convergence of the plates, due to the convergence of the plates, these sediments, these sediments are folded, these sediments are folded to form, to form the highest mountains on the surface of the earth, to form the highest mountains on the surface of the earth, form the highest mountains on the surface of the earth, known as fold mountains, known as fold mountains. In such collision, in such collision, the denser oceanic plate, in such collision, the denser oceanic plate subducts along Benioff zone, subducts along the Benioff zone, giving rise to, giving rise to क्या होगा यहाँ पे, trenches, giving rise to trenches parallel to the fold mountains, parallel to the fold mountains. Due to the subduction, due to subduction, the plates are melted, the plates are melted, and hence the magma tries to escape, magma tries to escape in the form of violent volcanoes, in the form of violent volcanoes. The movement of the plates, movement of the plates, comma, flow of magma, flow of magma, and isostatic adjustments, isostatic adjustments. मैं कल ये क्वेश्चन देने वाला था टेस्ट में, isostatic adjustments, पर आई थॉट कि बहुत कम लोग लिख पाएंगे. And the isostatic adjustments gives rise to powerful earthquakes, gives rise to powerful earthquakes. Powerful earthquakes, earthquakes. Fine. एग्जाम्पल बताओ मुझे इसका. Which one? Andes and Rockies. Example, Andes and Rockies. Andes and Rockies have formed due to such collisions? Have formed due to such collisions. Full stop. So see what we have written, हमने convergent plate boundary भी बताया, उसमें ये भी बताया कि क्या क्या process है. We also have told in the answer कि यहाँ पे such mountains will be volcanic in origin. This is how your ideal answer should be. Fine. And then अगर question specifically पूछा है Andes का, तो फिर you have to just mention one word कि Andes are formed due to the convergence of Nazca plate with South American plate. Rockies are formed due to the convergence of Pacific plate with North American plate. Fine. Remember, याद है वो चीजें? You remember this? So no need of writing. Fine. अब second, ये तो एक part हो गया. You draw this diagram right now. जरूरी नहीं माउंटेन शुड कम ओनली ऑन दिस साइड, यू कैन शो इट ऑल्सो ऑन दिस साइड. बट मैंने इसलिए बनाया है जस्ट टू ड्रॉ दिस. अगर ये याद नहीं, नास्का प्लेट, साउथ अमेरिकन प्लेट, पेरू चिली ट्रेंच एंड एंडीज. Is our answer complete? No. Why? Because we have just given one fact of a mountain. The second is Himalaya, that is ocean, continent collision. Fine. Now before I go, what is the shape of Rockies? If this is North America, can I say Rockies are this way in shape? If this is South America, can I say these are the shape of the Andes? If this is India, can I say this is the shape of the Himalayas? Right? Or if I want to show you Indonesia, ये ऐसा है Indonesia. So can you see none of these mountains are straight, they are always curved in shape. Or I can say in geography they are convex or concave in shape. Convex or concave means some part is concave, some part is convex. Some part is concave, some part is convex. Depending upon from where you see. अगर यहाँ से देखा तो this is concave, this is convex. Why is it so? Answer is very simple. किसी को अगर आप push कर रहे हो, जहाँ से push is greater, वो part अंदर चला जाएगा. And जहाँ से push नहीं है, वो part बाहर आएगा. Therefore, the mountains, fold mountains are also known as continental arcs. And islands को कहते हैं हम island arc. This shows कि हाँ, plate tectonics is real. अगर plate tectonics was not real, तो mountain straight होता. कौन सा mountain straight है? जो plate tectonics से नहीं बना है. Vindhyas, Satpuras, Western Ghats. Straight क्यों है? Because they are not associated with convergent plate boundary. अगर convergence is there, that means there is push. And the part which is weak will be pushed inside. The part which is not weak will be outside. Getting it? Next is very high mountains. Very high mountains. Very high mountains. Fold mountains may be highest. Very high mountains are associated with convergence of two continental plates. Are associated with the convergence of two continental plates. In such convergence, high force causes compression of the plate margins. High force causes compression of the plate margins, and hence the sediments from both the plates are squeezed. Sediments from both the plates are squeezed, folded to give rise to the fold mountains. Squeezed, folded to give rise to the fold mountains. Can I continue? The relatively denser plate slides beneath the lighter plate, uplifting the lighter plate, giving such mountains great heights, full stop. As the plate does not subduct deep inside the mantle, it does not melt, comma के बाद it does not melt, and therefore the crust is very thick. Hence, such mountains are volcano-free zones. 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 Are volcano-free zones. are volcano free zones. But but have have earthquakes. But have earthquakes. The continent continent collision, the continent collision gives rise to mountains which are located deep inside the continent, which are located deep inside the continent, unlike unlike the coastal mountains such as Andes and Rockies. Unlike the coastal mountains such as Andes and Rockies. Full stop. As the collision is very powerful, as the collision is very powerful, earthquakes and landslides, earthquakes and landslides are very common in this region. Earthquakes and landslides are very common in this region. So you can draw this diagram. Can someone tell me what is the difference? Subduction, वहाँ पे subduction नहीं है, fine. यहाँ पे ये मेल्ट हो गया, वहाँ पे डबलिंग अप ऑफ द अर्थ क्रस्ट है, ट्रेंच नहीं है, यहाँ पे ट्रेंच है, वहाँ पे खाली जगह है, नो वॉल्केनोस, वहाँ यहाँ पे वॉल्केनोस, देयर आर नो वॉल्केनोस, बाकी बेसिक इज सेम. जब भी अर्थ कोलाइड होगा झटका, अर्थक्वेक, जब भी प्लेट नीचे जाएगा झटका, अर्थक्वेक, ये सब कॉमन होगा वहाँ पे. नहीं, इंडियन प्लेट मेल्ट नहीं हो रही है बिकॉज कॉन्टिनेंट है. सो वो मेल्ट होने के लिए जनरल लॉ इज इट शुड गो 80 किलोमीटर्स डीप. सो व्हाइल मेकिंग द डायग्राम मेक श्योर कि बेंड नहीं करना है, बस सीधा लेके जाना है उसको. In transform boundaries, reason is because even these are powerful. In the transform plate boundary, the plate is moving across each other. Now, unlike what I show in the diagram, what we see in the diagram, the plates are not smooth, their margins are not smooth, so they get interlocked. After getting interlocked, they will move in opposite direction. If they are moving in opposite direction, this lock will come out if there is enough pressure, force, and when the rocks will break, there will be sudden movement. A sudden movement and therefore very powerful earthquakes. Earthquakes are more powerful than this also in the transform plate boundary. Tell me how you wrote an answer of the formation of the Himalayas. This was the point, continent collision. They had specifically asked you regarding the Himalayas, so ये लिखना था, उसकी जरूरत नहीं थी. Of? हाँ. Ocean. सिर्फ ocean. इंडिया, पैसिफिक एंड थोड़ा यूरेशियन का प्लेट। नहीं नहीं, ऑस्ट्रेलिया तो एक ही प्लेट है। नहीं, इंडियन विथ पैसिफिक, इंडियन विथ यूरेशियन। हाँ, no, don't go by that map. These maps have changed now. There is no Burmese plate. Now there is a small Burmese plate which has developed. Wikipedia says India with Eurasian. That is wrong. It is India with Pacific, and therefore we have Java Trench, the point of subduction of Pacific plate below the Eurasian plate. We are going to write this. नहीं हुआ था। Don't go by that map. That map has changed. कुछ सालों पहले तक हमें पता नहीं था कि there is a small plate known as Burmese plate. कब पता चला कि स्मॉल प्लेट है बर्मिस प्लेट? जब इंडियन ओशन में सुनामी आई तब पता चला ओके यहाँ पे और एक प्लेट है। सो याद रखना, वो तो एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, प्लेट्स आर बीइंग क्रिएटेड। जब अर्थक्वेक आता है देन वी अंडरस्टैंड, अरे अच्छा अच्छा यहाँ पे एक प्लेट है। एग्जाम्पल, ऐसे लग रहा था पेनिनसुला में देयर विल बी नो अर्थक्वेक्स, फाइन। गुजरात में बिंदास हाउस मेकिंग इन कच्छ, बट बाद में पता चला दैट इज अ ट्रांसफॉर्म प्लेट बाउंड्री जब भुज में अर्थक्वेक आया, फाइन। लास्ट टू लास्ट ईयर तक ऐसे लग रहा था इंडोनेशिया इज प्रॉपरली एन आइलैंड, though it has not yet been coming in the books, but Indonesia is not the New Zealand is just an island. New Zealand is not an island. New Zealand was a continent known as New Zealandia, जो अब समंदर के नीचे गया है, submergence, and उसके peaks are the country of New Zealand, fine. So these things are being created, and human understanding is so much limited because we do not understand the plate tectonics. ये जो बुक्स में है, दिस इज ओनली द प्लेट्स विच हैव बीन फॉर्म्ड। अगर सपोज कल यहाँ पे एक पावरफुल अर्थक्वेक होता है, देन वी विल अंडरस्टैंड हाँ यहाँ के इसके नीचे अलग प्लेट है, बिकॉज दिस आर कॉन्स्टेंटली बीइंग क्रिएटेड, फाइन। अरेबियन प्लेट, अरेबियन प्लेट की बाउंड्री कम्स इन गुजरात, सबडक्ट नहीं होगी। इंडियन प्लेट, बिकॉज इट इज अ ट्रांसफॉर्म बाउंड्री में देयर इज नो सबडक्शन, सो इंडियन प्लेट इज मूविंग अपवर्ड्स एंड दिस इज हाउ द अरेबियन प्लेट, एंड देयरफॉर गुजरात इज ब्रेकिंग लाइक दिस। अरेबियन प्लेट इज अ कॉन्टिनेंटल प्लेट, and even if it is an ocean plate, why it will subduct? Transform plate boundary में no subduction, subduction only in the convergent plate boundary. This is a transform plate boundary, right? So the Indian and the Himalayas and the Alps, the Himalayas and the Alps, Himalayas and the Alps were formed due to the convergence of Indian plate with Eurasian plate, Indian plate with the Eurasian plate, and the African plate with the Eurasian plate respectively. And the African plate with the Eurasian plate respectively. These plates were separated by Tethys geosyncline. Were separated by the Tethys geosyncline, and during कौन सा era? Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic? कौन सा लिखूंगा? याद करने की जरूरत नहीं. Which is the recent? Cenozoic, Mesozoic और Paleozoic? And therefore during the Cenozoic era, see मत रट्टा मारो, अंडरस्टैंड करो कैसे वर्ड्स यूज करने हैं. ड्यूरिंग द सेनोजोइक एरा, और एग्जाम में अंडरलाइन कर लो सेनोजोइक, एग्जामिनर विल थिंक देखो टेक्निकल आंसर है. ड्यूरिंग द सेनोजोइक एरा, these plates collided these plates collided, causing squeezing of the sediments of the Tethys Sea, causing squeezing of the sediments of the Tethys Sea to form to form Alps and Himalayas. Form Alps and Himalayas. Form Alps and Himalayas. Full stop. Those who have done GS, are there volcanoes in Europe? Yes. Mount Stromboli, Mount Vesuvius, Mount Etna. Right? But there are no volcanoes in Himalayas. क्यों? कॉन्टिनेंट कॉन्टिनेंट कोलिजन में तो वॉल्केनो नहीं होना चाहिए. कहाँ पे? हिमालय में. देन व्हाई कॉन्टिनेंट कॉन्टिनेंट कोलिजन इज सेम हैपनिंग इन एल्प्स? वहाँ पे क्यों है हिमालयस? वहाँ पे क्यों है द वॉल्केनोस? नॉर्थ अमेरिकन नहीं है यहाँ पे. नहीं नहीं, आई एम आस्किंग अबाउट एल्प्स. एल्प्स यूरोप में, एल्प्स. इटली में देयर इज माउंट स्ट्रोम्बोली. जीएस के लिए पता होना चाहिए, लाइट हाउस ऑफ मेडिटेरेनियन. फाइन. Italy में there is Mount Vesuvius, Mount Etna. These all are continuous volcanoes. Why there are volcanoes in the Italy if it is an example of continent-continent collision? If the diagram is this, presence of Mediterranean Sea. So Mediterranean Sea के नीचे, you all were right, Mediterranean Sea के नीचे वाला crust is oceanic, and therefore आज वो subduct हो रहा है. But where is the Mediterranean Sea below India? Gone. Fine. So वो subduct हो चुका है. So जहाँ जहाँ there was subduction, if there is an oceanic crust, see suppose if this is an oceanic crust, it will totally subduct. Well, there will be volcanoes. So when India and Africa was moving, the Tethys geosyncline in the regions of India totally subducted. The Tethys geosyncline is still present as a Mediterranean Sea and it is getting subducted below the Eurasian plate, and यहाँ वहाँ पे ये हो रहा है, even though it is a continent-continent collision. In India, the same thing happened. So the subduction was there was volcanoes, but not in Himalayas. The volcanoes were present just before the Himalayas were formed. If these are the Himalayas, there is no volcano because of Tethys Sea बचा नहीं है. But when the Tethys Sea का sediments were there, the mountains which were formed are known as Trans-Himalayas. याद रखना, we will come to this in Indian geography, even in GS में लिए याद रखना, why Himalayas and Trans-Himalayas are different? Because Trans-Himalayas are volcanic, Himalayas do not have volcano. Why Trans-Himalayas are volcanic? Because जो आज बचा है Tethys Sea, Mediterranean Sea in the Alps, वैसे ही there was a Mediterranean Sea near the Himalayas. So that Mediterranean Sea ka crust subducted and gave rise to the Trans-Himalayas. Kailash, Karakoram, Ladakh, fine, this all are volcanic in origin and Himalayas are not. If you go ever in the Himalayas, you will see Kailash ka rock is black, fine, Karakoram ka rock is black, Ladakh ka rock is black, Himalayas is white. Sial, Sima. Getting it? Sima, basalt, Sial, granite. So what is the difference between Trans-Himalayas and Himalayas? सिर्फ इतना याद रखना, Trans-Himalayas are volcanic in origin. Because wherever there is water, oceans, वहाँ पे subduction होगा. So Indian plate is also subducting below the Pacific plate near Andaman Nicobar, barren islands, volcanic. Indonesia, volcanic. Fine. सिर्फ जहाँ continent है, वहाँ पे there will be no volcanoes. Fine. Getting it? Who? Yes, they are extension of. No. See, देखो अभी यूपीएससी में जब हम करते हैं, we do not make so much generalization. Himalayas are Himalayas. कहाँ से शुरू होता है? जम्मू कश्मीर. कहाँ पे एंड होता है? in Myanmar, not in Arunachal. Fine. So ये जो है hills, Eastern Hill Complex, Patkai Bum, नागा हिल्स, मणिपुर हिल्स, ये सब हिमालयाज है. Arakan is Arakan. Andaman is Andaman. Geographically an extension of the Himalayas, but there are no Himalayas. Trans Himalayas is Trans Himalayas. And so don't mix it. ये नहीं कह सकते कि हिमालयस है वॉल्केनो बिकॉज अंडमान निकोबार में है वॉल्केनोस. नो, दे आर आइलैंड्स, दे आर नॉट हिमालयस. हिमालयस मीन्स माउंटेन्स विच हैव आइस ऑन द टॉप ऑफ देम. हिम is ice, Alaya is place, the place of glaciers, third pole of the world. Getting it? Next point. In the regions of Indian plate, most of the Tethys Sea is destroyed. Resulting into crustal shortening of around 500 kilometers. Crustal shortening, given at least, of around 500 kilometers. Crustal shortening of 500 kilometers. What is crustal shortening? Plate, one plate, another plate, convergent plate boundary. This is the crust of the earth. Fold हो गया. Because it has folded, has the crust का width reduced? This is what is crustal shortening. So कितने किलोमीटर से ये एशियन प्लेट एंड इंडियन प्लेट का width was reduced by 500 kilometers. इसलिए तो हाइट बढ़ गई. This is what is known as crustal shortening. Crust छोटा हो गया. But in the regions of Alps, the African plate is still being subducted. Underline the word subducted. The African plate is still being subducted. Is still being subducted below the Eurasian plate. Is still being subducted below the Eurasian plate. Fine. ये हो गए main mountains. So अब formation of Appalachians. Formation of Appalachians. कैसे बने Appalachians? प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स से. कोलिजन से ही बने होंगे, कन्वर्जन से नहीं कन्वर्जन से ही बने होंगे. दे वोंट बी फॉर्म ड्यू टू डाइवर्जेंस. फाइन. सो इमेजिन यू आर इन द एग्जाम एंड दिस इज द क्वेश्चन विच कम्स एज अ बाउंसर, पर आपको अटेम्प्ट ही करना है. यू डोंट नो एनीथिंग अबाउट इट, बट इतना तो पता है कि कन्वर्जन से बना है. फाइन. किसका कन्वर्जेंस है ये नहीं पता. फाइन. बट कन्वर्जन से बना इतना पता है. मीन्स इंस्टेड ऑफ गेटिंग 0, इफ यू गेट 2 marks, व्हाट्स द हार्म? हम तो अच्छी तरह से करके जाएंगे. सो ऐसे समय कुछ अच्छा इंट्रोडक्शन, मीन्स कुछ अच्छी लाइन. एक तो पार्ट लिख लिया बहुत अच्छा. दूसरा, all the plates are constantly in motion and they're being created and destroyed. So Pangea was created and destroyed many times. पता नहीं कितने time. So many times. Fine. So during the old Pangea, when it was broken, the two parts of the Pangea collided to give rise to the Appalachian Mountains. फिर अमेरिका का अच्छा डायग्राम बनाओ और Appalachian Mountains, continent collision. ठीक है, नहीं पता, but you should never be afraid in the exam. And this is the trick of solving. So इसीलिए if you don't know anything, कुछ ना कुछ लिखो. वो तो देखेगा हाँ कन्वर्जन तो है, डायग्राम तो अच्छा है. दैट इज वेयर द डायग्राम्स विल प्ले द प्लेस. जहाँ जिसको पता है, वेरी गुड. फाइन. सो वी विल सी कि द Pangea was created and destroyed. So during the Pangea 2, proto North American plate collided with the African plate to give rise to the Appalachian Mountains. So Appalachian Mountains like the Himalayas are an example of continent-continent collision. इसलिए मैं इसमें लिखा रहा हूँ. Urals like the Himalayas are an example of an continent-continent collision. Fine. So इसलिए Urals and Appalachians do not have volcanoes. Volcanoes है ocean continent collision में. The only difference between the Urals and the Appalachians is Appalachians के ऊपर proper study करी गई थी and they knew that Atlantic Ocean was initially present, then it was closed, then again it opened, then it was closed. जब second time when it was closed, American plate collided with the African plate giving rise to Appalachians. When it was closed, Appalachian बन गया and फिर से Pangea 2 बन गया and then Wegener के समय फिर से वो जो जहाँ से Wegener ने दिया था from the Carboniferous period, it again opened up. कहाँ पे? Atlantic. But some part did not open up and जो part open नहीं हुआ, that is Urals. Getting it? So आगे जाके don't be surprised if आगे जाके कोई case study आती है in the newspaper etc. आता है कि the region of Urals was once the region of sea. You already know. हाँ हो सकता है because this was before the continent joined together. That means ये जो Asia है, this was not a single continent any time. It was created and destroyed. Fine. Wikipedia कहता है कजाक प्लेट. Remember, विकिपीडिया पे मत जाना बिकॉज कजाकिस्तान करके प्लेट ऐसे डायरेक्टली नहीं थी. आई विल गिव यू प्रॉपरली व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ दैट प्लेट. एंड दिस विकिपीडिया में जब ये रॉन्ग इंफॉर्मेशन आई 3-4 साल पहले, तो रिसर्च किया गया था हाउ डिड यूरल्स फॉर्म, एंड यूरल इज फॉर्म ड्यू टू द बाल्टिक प्लेट, नॉट एग्जैक्टली ड्यू टू द कजाक प्लेट. फाइन. सो एप्लेशियंस फॉर्मेशन. कंटिन्यू राइटिंग नाउ. As the plates are always in motion, plates are always in motion. Why plates are always in motion? Due to convectional currents. Fine. The plates are always in motion and hence they sometimes unite to form a huge supercontinent. They sometimes unite to form a huge supercontinent similar to Pangea. And move away from each other to form smaller plates. Move away from each other to form smaller plates. About 460 million years ago, the region of today's Atlantic Ocean, was closed due to the convergence of proto North American plate. So याद रखना, Atlantic was also once upon a time a geosyncline, and African plate as well as Eurasian plate. That means जो पुरानी North American plate थी, it collided with the African plate and Eurasian plate. The collision of, paragraph change करके लिखना, the collision of proto North American plate Give me the atlas. Proto North American plate with the collision of Proto North American plate with the African plate, gave rise to the old fold mountains known as Appalachians. Gave rise to old fold mountains known as Appalachians. While the collision of Eurasian plate with the Proto North American plate, Eurasian plate with the Proto North American plate gave rise to mountains of Scandinavia and Ireland. Scandinavia and Ireland. कल की मैच किसने देखी? Fine. So who was responsible for England winning? एक लक छोड़ के. Ben Stokes. Fine. Fearless. You have seen him play in IPL. ऐसे ही खेलता है. Fearless. अभी से कहाँ से है Ben Stokes? Ben Stokes is from England. कहाँ से है England में? From Ireland. Ben Stokes, England का player. But settled Irish है ना वो. Irish है. He is Irish. ठीक है. Ireland is full of mountains. Did Ireland ask for freedom? Ireland ने struggle किया था कि नहीं? Fine. अभी से इतना याद रखना. हम जब डिटर्मिनिज्म में आएंगे और एलिन सैंपल पे आएंगे, एलिन चर्चिल सैंपल पे आएंगे, शी सेड कि द रीजन्स इन द पीपल हु स्टे इन द माउंटेनियस रीजन्स विल बी ऑलवेज टफ. They will always be ready to fight. They will always seek freedom, and therefore fortune will favor them. ऐसे उसने कहा है. This is what is Eurocentric determinism. और ये fine. So I'm just taking an example. Now you open page number 105 of your atlas. Or you look at the major landforms and the major mountains of the world in the atlas. If it is Oxford Atlas, which one is the Oxford Atlas? Old one. You go 4 pages. You open page number 100, 101. Go back. Show me. Fine. In this page, especially if you are having the new red color atlas, in this page you will see the major mountains of the world. कोई green color में दिया है, कोई yellow color में दिया है, कोई brown color में दिया है. So the old Caledonian mountains are given in brown color, and this is where is the Appalachian. Getting it? Appalachian mountains. I will show you in the other atlas also. This is where is the Appalachian mountains, and this is where is the mountains of Scandinavia. Fine? Getting it? अब इन दोनों प्लेट को ज्वाइन करो. बिफोर द Pangea 2, अफ्रीकन प्लेट कोलाइडेड विथ प्रोटो नॉर्थ अमेरिकन प्लेट. बाउंड्री पे Appalachians. यूरेशियन प्लेट कोलाइडेड विथ द नॉर्थ अमेरिकन प्लेट. बाउंड्री पे Scandinavian mountains. Getting it? So these are the old fold mountains. Those who are having the, I don't know whether it is present in the Orient Longman. Is it given? You can look in the world map then. If it is not given, look in the world physical map and you will find Appalachians and the Scandinavian mountains exactly at the boundary. So this shows continent-continent collision. Afterwards what happened? The Pangea has again separated. Fine? फिर से it got united. जब वो next time unite हुआ and फिर से separate हुआ तो Himalayas. अब in the future it will again get united and कहाँ पे mountain बनेगा? जहाँ पे England, जहाँ पे USA will collide with Russia. Fine? Getting it? Appalachians. This was old plate boundary. and the same extension of an Appalachian is Scandinavia. So the relation between the Scandinavian and the Appalachian mountain is same as what is the relation between Alps and Himalayas. Continents अलग है, process वही है, plates वही है, एक common plate है, Eurasian plate. Himalayas and Alps के बीच one plate is common, Eurasian plate. The other two plates are different, African and Indian plate. यहाँ पे also one plate is common. What? Proto-North American plate. And the two other plates are Eurasian plate and African plate. Understanding? Understanding everyone? Geomorphology जब तक चल रहा है, carry the atlas to the class. Climate में जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी atlas की. Next point. Similarly, the Urals, which today separate Europe and Asia were formed when the Pangea was begin to form before the Carboniferous period. When the Pangea was begin to form, Asia were formed when Pangea started forming or began to form before the Carboniferous period. Before the Carboniferous period. They were formed because the West Siberian plate collided with Baltica plate. Baltic Sea देखा है in the atlas? So वहाँ पे एक plate था. I've told you कि Pleistocene में ये this part got submerged, giving rise to Baltic Sea with the Baltica plate. During the formation of Laurasia land. During the formation of Laurasia land. So the mountains of Urals are an example of continent-continent collision. Mountains of Urals are an example of continent-continent collision. Open the world map again, physical. कौन सी दो प्लेट्स थी? West Siberian plate, along with a small plate known as Baltica plate. They both collided, giving rise to Ural Mountains. Fine? Getting it? But सबसे powerful collision has occurred. If you are keeping the world map open, just keep it open. सबसे powerful collision has occurred यूराल के नीचे, हिमालयस के ऊपर, and इसलिए पूरा region brown है. देखो, this entire region is very much brown. This region is one of the most complex collision in the world. Himalayas, Tian Shan, Kunlun Shan, Altun Shan, Trans Himalayas. Why? कोवर की थियरी याद रखना, मीडियन मास. ये सिर्फ दिमाग में रखो, आंसर में कभी नहीं लिख पाओगे. Fine, median mass. So the rock here was so strong that it did not get folded. Sif sides got folded of the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. Fine. Up coming to the question, can I say ये Indian plate है, ये this is Indian plate board and this is the Eurasian plate and बीच में what was there? Geosyncline, tethys geosyncline. अब किसी भी समंदर को just imagine करो. It is starting from here to here. So any sea will be like this, shallow, 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 then deep, 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 and then deepest. Fine. Yeah, central part will be deep and बाहर जाते जाते it will become shallow. Fine. So this was the tethys geosyncline. यहाँ पे था Eurasia, यहाँ पे था India. Indian plate collided with the Eurasian plate. While collision was happening, large amount of sediments were deposited in the tethys geosyncline. As the sediments were deposited in the water, will the sediments become loose? Right? उनमें पानी भर गया तो will they become soft? And therefore folding is easy. अब which कहाँ पे sediments सबसे ज़्यादा थे? जो पार्ट वेरी डीप था सेंटर में, एंड एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ दिस जब कोलिजन हुआ तो सेंटर पार्ट का सेडिमेंट्स वेयर सबसे ज्यादा स्क्वीज्ड एंड हेंस माउंट एवरेस्ट, कंचनजंगा, नंदा देवी, अन्नपूर्णा, ये जो पीक्स है विच आर द हाईएस्ट पीक्स ऑफ द हिमालयाज, दे आर फाउंड एट सेंटर. गेटिंग इट? उत्तराखंड मोस्ट प्रोन टू लैंडस्लाइड्स, वीक रॉक है. क्यों? Because that was the part which was the deepest part of the Tethys Sea. So why the central part of the Himalayas is highest? Because that part was the deepest. इसलिए Mount Everest is this. क्योंकि you will understand later on in Indian geography कि collision which happened with the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate did not occur at the center. India Himalayas ऐसे है. There is a syntaxial bend in the Himalayas. This has come even in GS. It is because Aravallis pushed from here and the hills of northeast India pushed from here. So सबसे ज़्यादा push occurred at this part, but ये part center का part is highest. Why? Because the sea was deepest. Understanding? If you have not understood, should I repeat again in Hindi? जितके जास्ती sediments तेवढे easily fold झाले. Hindi and English only I'll keep in the class. So he's asking if it is very, very deep, then how come the sediments were folded? So the reason is push was so much, that is the part which was deep, उसमें सबसे ज़्यादा sediments deposit हो गए, और जब push हुआ तो वो पानी के नीचे थे इसलिए वो बहुत soft थे, और because of soft थे तो clay जैसे easily fold हो गए. Anyways ये question सिर्फ पूछा जाता है ज्योग्राफी ऑप्शनल, अगर उन्होंने आपका डीएफ देखा तो ही कि अच्छा ज्योग्राफी ऑप्शनल है तो बताओ हिमालयास के सेंटर में हाइट क्यों ज़्यादा है, तो सिर्फ इतना याद रखना कि सर क्योंकि वो पार्ट जियोसिंक्लाइन का डीपेस्ट था, बस. फाइन. Don't write or draw anything. Is the oceanic crust thin? Yes, as compared to the continental crust, it is very, very thin. कैसा कोलिशन हो रहा है? ओशन 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 कॉन्टिनेंट. व्हाट इज दिस? ओशन कॉन्टिनेंट. फाइन. What is here? Magma or the asthenosphere. Now imagine this going deep inside, and because it is going deep inside, No need of this diagram, fine. It is melting. Because it is melting, magma is increasing from here. Because the magma more melt hota hai and it is increasing from here, it will find a ways to go. So kuch aise upar jayega, will come up, and it will form volcanoes. It will form volcanoes. Fine. कुछ मैग्मा जरूरी नहीं इसी साइड जाएगा, कुछ इधर जाएगा, एंड जो इधर जाएगा इट विल सी कि अरे दिस इज द वीकेस्ट पार्ट, सो इसको तोड़ेगा वो. फाइन. तोड़ेगा, ऊपर आएगा, वॉल्केनिक माउंटेन फॉर्म होगा. उसके बाद जितना ज्यादा सबडक्शन उतना ज्यादा volcanic mountain will be formed. So the height of these mountains will keep on increasing. And then if it comes up, we'll call this as island. But because now magma is coming upwards, kya hoga? This plate will break into two parts. Once it gets broken into two parts, jitna zyada magma upar aayega, utna this plate will break. So initially there was no boundary. Now this has become divergent plate boundary, and this is convergent plate boundary. ऐसे plates बनते हैं. Understanding? पहले कुछ नहीं था, but because there was subduction, magma बढ़ गया यहाँ पे. There was high amount of magma. Some magma came up from there. Some magma came up from here. Saw कि this is the weakest part of the ocean. Imagine कि this is 5 kilometers, but यहाँ पे due to some reasons the thickness is only 3 kilometers. So this magma can easily break. It starts coming up. एक बार it gets a path, it will start coming upwards, and it will break this. And this is how the plate boundaries are created. We call this process, how the plate boundaries are created, as and अगर ऐसा continuously होता गया तो this will be mountainous region. Where do I find this? Asia, Pacific plate, and Japan. This is how Japan is being formed. Asian plate, Pacific plate. Pacific plate is subducting. Now the Pacific plate इतना ज़्यादा magma है कि it is broken into two parts, and जो magma ऊपर आया, it has got solidified to give rise to the islands of Japan. Fine. So these are island arcs. One example. But the most of the island arcs are very easy. Unless they ask you specifically of Japan, you don't have to write this technical detail. It has never come in optional, but last to last year the same itna difficult topic came in GS. Mantle plume and its role in plate tectonics. Obviously very few people could write it. No. Hotspot is a region jahan se there is a continuous volcanic eruption. Island arc is a region in which there is a ocean-ocean convergence. Island arc are always located at the plate boundaries. Hotspots are always located away from the plate margins, and therefore plate tectonics cannot explain it. Because the plate tectonics cannot explain it, there was a person who gave the theory of mantle plume. Yes, mantle plume. Hawaii Islands, mantle plume. Fine, so we will do now the island arcs. Difficult लग रहा है ये टॉपिक या इजी लग रहा है? इजी है. What? ओशन ओशन, बट जब आइलैंड आर्क पूछेंगे ओशन ओशन कन्वर्जेंस. मैंटल प्लूम, हॉटस्पॉट्स. मैंटल प्लूम से बनेगा हॉटस्पॉट्स. इफ दे आस्क यू अबाउट द हॉटस्पॉट्स, देन मैंटल प्लूम. इफ दे आस्क यू अबाउट island arcs, ocean ocean convergence. We are going to write now ocean ocean convergence. Yes. So hotspots are never near the continental plate margin. Show me the atlas. What we are doing right now कि the Pacific plate is convergent plate. Fine, एक ही plate है. आगे future will be, can you see the Hawaii Islands, smaller islands? How Pacific plate जैसे मैंने बताया वैसे it is breaking. So in the future, this will be a new divergent plate boundary and there will be no Pacific plate. Fine. So what I want to tell you basically by telling all this, plates are created and destroyed, and कौन determine करता है whether the plates will be created and destroyed? The direction of convectional currents. मन में आया कन्वेक्शनल करंट के नहीं मुझे आज इंडिया के अपोजिट डायरेक्शन में जाना है, इंडियन प्लेट विल मूव साउथवर्ड्स. फाइन. क्यों मन में क्यों? बिकॉज अभी तक साइंटिस्ट को समझ में नहीं आया why the convectional currents change the direction. We have seen how the convectional currents, when they collide together, convergent plate boundary, when they move away, divergent plate boundary. So what is happening right now in the Indian Himalayan region? They are colliding together. Himalayas are being formed. Suppose ऐसे भी हो सकता है tomorrow the convectional currents change the direction, फिर से ये जमीन खुलेगी. Right? We can never know, but इतने जल्दी होता नहीं है. That is why they are diastrophic forces. They are not catastrophic. One last statement. Japan is not a hotspot. Japan is not a hotspot. Japan is basically an island arc but formed due to these processes. This is an exception of Japan. Generally by these processes, hotspots should be formed, but even the Japan has been formed by this process. But while writing the answer, you will be writing simple. Japan has been formed due to the convergence of Pacific plate with the Eurasian plate. And then what I told you, कि यहाँ पे magma has increased and it will go, that is Hawaii, where the plates are breaking. That is a hotspot. These things will become clear in volcanics. Ocean convergence, ocean convergence. The collision of two oceanic plates. The collision of two oceanic plates gives rise to fold mountains. Gives rise to the fold mountains. But this fold mountains are located below the oceans. These fold mountains are located below the oceans. Such fold mountains are known as island arc or festoons. Island arc or festoons. Example, कौन सा है largest island arc? Indonesia. Example, Indonesia. Next point. When the two oceanic plate collide, their margins are squeezed and compressed. Their margins are squeezed and compressed to form island arcs or festoons. To form the island arc or festoons. The relatively denser plate or the faster plate, इसमें दोनों conditions है. the relatively denser plate or the faster plate is subducted deep inside the mantle, is subducted deep inside the mantle, is subducted deep inside the mantle. As the density of both the plates is greater, as the density of both the plates is greater, subduction subduction is faster, subduction is faster. After the plate melts, after the plate melts, huge amount of basaltic lava, huge amount of basaltic lava rises upwards, huge amount of basaltic lava rises upwards to, to give rise to to give rise to volcanic landforms, to give rise to volcanic landforms whose peaks whose peaks project out of the sea, whose peaks project out of the sea surface or project over the sea surface in the form of in the form of island arcs, in the form of island arcs. The zone of subduction, the zone of subduction is the region of trenches, is the region of trenches. You can draw this general diagram और फिर डिपेंड करेगा कैसे आप यूज करोगे दिस जनरल डायग्राम को. प्रोसेस वही है, सिर्फ फर्क इतना है कि एवरीथिंग इज नाउ हैपनिंग बिलो द सी. See, same है process. Only thing is it is now below the sea. What I have made this diagram. ये डायग्राम इसलिए मैंने ऐसे बनाया है बिकॉज मुझे जापान का एग्जाम्पल लेना है. सो दिस इज एशियाटिक प्लेट, मोस्टली कॉन्टिनेंटल बट सम पार्ट इज ओशियनिक. दिस इज पैसिफिक प्लेट एंड दिस इज collision of Asiatic plate with the Pacific plate. Pacific plate is going below and therefore this is Japan. Fine. ये एशिया है, this is Sea of Japan, this is Japan and this is the Pacific Ocean. That is why I have used the diagram in this way. In the exam, if you don't make this diagram, आपको दो डायग्राम बनाने पड़ेंगे, एक जनरल डायग्राम एंड एक क्वेश्चन क्या है पूछने के लिए, बताने के लिए. Which magma is this? Basaltic. Why? Because it is ocean-ocean convergence. Those who have finished, open the world map. World physical, world political, anything. So, in this world map, finished everyone? In this world map, look at Japan. Japan क्या है? ऊपर Sakhalin मिला? Sakhalin Islands. Look in the political map. रशिया का Sakhalin Islands. उसके बाद you will see Japan as Hokkaido. एक आइलैंड का नाम है. उसके बाद होन्शु दूसरे आइलैंड का नाम है. उसके बाद क्यूशु. उसके बाद शुकोकु. सो द आइलैंड्स ऑफ जापान जो है, नो नीड ऑफ डूइंग दिस. ये नॉर्थ टू साउथ में जो आइलैंड्स का नाम ले रहा हूँ, दिस आइलैंड इज होकाइडो. आफ्टर द येलो कलर लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. दिस आइलैंड येलो कलर इज साखलिन. मिला सबको साखलिन? इररेस्पेक्टिव ऑफ एनी मैप देयर विल बी साखलिन. गॉट इट? इट इज शोन इन येलो कलर रशिया में. उसके बाद इट इज होकाइडो, होन्शु, क्यूशु, शिकोक्यू. सो ये कुछ भी हो सकता है उसमें से. I want to show you that. This is the Sea of Japan, and this is, or this can be East China Sea. Fine? Can you see the Sea of Japan or East China Sea? And uske beach is, so we have drawn this map, but uska cross section. Asia, Sea of Japan le sakte ho, ya East China Sea hai, this is Japan. And this is the Kuril Trench or the Japan Trench. What is your result? Clear? Getting it? देखो ये डायग्राम तो आना ही चाहिए. जापान के ऊपर क्वेश्चन आया तो. एंड इफ यू हैव गुड स्किल्स, इफ यू हैव गुड टाइम, इवन दिस डायग्राम कैन कम. फाइन? होकाइडो, होन्शु, शिकोक्यू. सी, इफ यू वांट टू स्कोर हाई, मेक डायग्राम्स इन ज्योग्राफी. दैट इज अ सिंपल लॉजिक. every subject has some positives or negatives. If you want to score high in GS2, make diagrams, international relation, fine. If you want to score high in sociology, have very strong English. If you want to score high in anthropology, make diagrams. एंथ्रो में भी डायग्राम्स बनाने पड़ते हैं. सो ये तो ज्योग्राफी है, द सब्जेक्ट ऑफ डायग्राम्स इटसेल्फ. सो दिस इज व्हाट इज द जापान. यू कैन ड्रॉ बस इतना ही डायग्राम. So why I am telling you about diagrams. I was working in a company, corporate में, and on Feb 14th, yes I remember, Feb 14th, Valentine Day के दिन ही I landed in Delhi, resigning my job. आया, कुछ पता नहीं था यूपीएससी में. I went to a friend's place, देखा कौन से सब्जेक्ट से टॉपर्स आ रहे, साइकोलॉजी एंड ज्योग्राफी. तो बैठ, ये 3 सब्जेक्ट्स थे. ज्योग्राफी ले लिया. मैंने सोचा कि हाँ, स्कूल में मैं पढ़ता था ज्योग्राफी, 20 मार्क्स में से मुझे 18 मार्क्स मिलते थे, तो ज्योग्राफी में अच्छे मार्क्स मिलेंगे. आई टुक ज्योग्राफी, डिडंट न्यू एनीथिंग. एक कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट में गया कि कौन सा लेना चाहिए. उस कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट में मैं नाम नहीं लूँगा, उसमें 3 ऑप्शनल्स ऑफर थे. एक लॉ था, एक संस्कृत था और एक पाली था. उन्होंने कहा ये तीनों ले लो और तुम तो इंजीनियर हो इसलिए लॉ ले लो. मैं डर गया कि ये कुछ तो गड़बड़ है इधर. फिर आई वेंट टू वाजीराम, उसमें बोला कि, और वैसे भी 3-4 साल से टॉपर आ रहे थे साइको से. आई टुक साइकोलॉजी एज एन ऑप्शनल, क्योंकि हमारे समय 2 ऑप्शनल थे. प्रीलिम्स के लिए ले लिया ज्योग्राफी. क्यों लिया ज्योग्राफी? क्योंकि वही क्लास था जिसका क्रैश कोर्स चलता था उसी ऑप्शनल का. सो कोई दिमाग नहीं लगाया कि ये क्रैश कोर्स है, ज्योग्राफी ऑप्शनल का, चलो ज्योग्राफी ले लेते हैं. आई वेंट विथ ज्योग्राफी. लकीली इन द फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट आई कुड क्लियर द एग्जाम. मेंस के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं था. इन दैट ईयर केम अ क्वेश्चन, distinguish between the east flowing and the west flowing rivers of India. Fine, if you look at the past year questions. And this was for 60 marks. That was the only question I knew very properly. Section B में एक question था, Malthusian Marxian theory. So what I did, psycho में तो was disaster, because psycho का तब coaching ही चल रहा था along with the mains. So in that question I remember I drew गंगा की सारी ट्रिब्यूटरीज, इंडिया की जितनी रिवर्स है, मैंने 62 रिवर्स ड्रॉ की थी उसमें डायग्राम में. इन दैट, बिकॉज कुछ आता ही नहीं था. आई हैड इनफ टाइम. सो एंड व्हेन मार्क्स केम, सरप्राइजिंगली पेपर 2 वाज 186 आउट ऑफ 300 एंड माय टोटल स्कोर वाज 335 आउट ऑफ 600. दैट मीन्स मैं समझ गया था ट्रिक ज्योग्राफी का. इट डायग्राम्स, हर पेपर में डायग्राम्स, हर इसमें डायग्राम्स. एंड उसके बाद तो ज्योग्राफी ने कभी धोखा नहीं दिया. इट वाज बिकॉज ऑफ साइकोलॉजी. उसमें डायग्राम्स नहीं थे, मैं कभी 250 के ऊपर जा ही नहीं पाया. फाइन, सो यू शुड मेक द डायग्राम. मैं कैसे भी डायग्राम्स बनाता था, जहां मिला वहां पे डायग्राम. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, वन क्वेश्चन वाज चेंजिंग पैटर्न ऑफ कॉफी ट्रेड. वर्ल्ड मैप बनाया, ब्राजील से ऐसे दिखा दिया एरो, इंडिया से ऐसे दिखा दिया एरो, यूरोप की तरफ, एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज द चेंजिंग पैटर्न ऑफ कॉफी ट्रेड. डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ पॉपुलेशन इन द सदर्न नेशंस, ब्रिक्स के कंट्रीज का एक शेडिंग कर दिया, डेवलपिंग नेशंस उनकी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक लिख दी, माउंटेनियस कंट्री उनकी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, एवरीथिंग टू थ्रू डायग्राम्स. फाइन, सो मेक डायग्राम्स. इट हैज नॉट फेल्ड मी इन द ज्योग्राफी, though I, and to tell you very very frankly, in my all the 4 attempts I have never touched chapter 4 and chapter 5 of this, and still I could score. मैं उसमें से सिर्फ सिलेक्टेड टॉपिक्स करके जाता था, सॉइल्स एंड बायोम्स, प्रीलिम्स, जितना जीएस के लिए, जो आप जीएस के लिए पढ़ते हो उतना ही करके जाता था. Can I continue? Can I continue now? So the Japan Island arc was formed due to the collision of the Pacific plate with the oceanic part of the Eurasian plate. With the oceanic part, देखो ओशन कन्वर्जेंस बताना है हमें. पैसिफिक प्लेट तो पता ही है ओशनिक, विद द ओशियनिक पार्ट ऑफ द यूरेशियन प्लेट और एशियन प्लेट. The point of the subduction of denser Pacific plate, the point of the subduction of the denser Pacific plate is known as Japan or Kuril Trench. Is known as Japan or Kuril Trench. Japan or Kuril Trench. Oceanography GS में you will study Kuril current, Kuril Trench, Kuril Islands. Sakhalin जो देखा हमने, that is an region of an Russia. So Japan Trench or Kuril Trench, the name is same. And why that Sakhalin Island is important in GS? Huh? It is a disputed area between Russia and Japan. Plus it is extremely rich in petrol. And Japan and Russia has given that island पे petrol exploration rights to ONGC. ONGC वहाँ से export करता है. ONGC is presented in that Sakhalin Island. That is why it is important. Fine. So next, similarly, the world's largest island arc, Indonesia. The world's largest island arc of Indonesia is a combination of both tectonic and volcanic movements. Is a combination of both tectonic movements and volcanic activities. Tectonic movement and volcanic activities. The Philippines Island arc is formed due to the convergence of minor Philippines plate with the Pacific plate. As the Pacific plate is more denser, it subducts giving rise to one of the deepest trenches of the region, known as Marina Trench. Deepest trenches of the world भी लिख सकते हो, मैंने region इसलिए लिखा Marina Trench and Mindanao Trench. मरीना ट्रेंच एंड मिंडानो ट्रेंच. मिंडानो ट्रेंच का दूसरा नाम है फिलीपींस ट्रेंच, गिविंग राइज टू द मरीना ट्रेंच एंड द मिंडानो ट्रेंच. Next point, the Indonesian island arc. The Indonesian island arc is a complex region, of convergence, of three major plates, that is the Indonesian plate, comma, Eurasian plate, Indian plate, comma, Eurasian plate, and Pacific plate. Along with minor Burma plate, So कौन सी प्लेट्स है यहाँ पे? तीन बड़ी, we call them as major. Which are the three bigger plates? Eurasian plate, Indian plate, Pacific plate. और कौन सी छोटी प्लेट है? There is a small plate here which is known as an Burma plate. अब last time whatever had happened, Indian plate, अब remember who will subduct? दोनों में से जो denser है. So which is the most densest plate in the world? Pacific. So if anything is colliding with Pacific is going to subduct. Fine, but if anything is colliding with Indian plate and कोई छोटी plates है, so Eurasian plate and Indian plate में which is more denser? Indian plate. ये छोटी Burmese plate and Indian plate में which is more denser? Indian plate. So last time when the Indian plate subducted, it suddenly went below, and that gave rise to tsunami, killing more than 1 lakh people all over this region. Indian Ocean tsunami, वो है Indian plate का movement. Fine. So this is a complex zone of convergence of Pacific plate, Indonesian, the what is known as Burmese plate. ये एक Sunda plate है, ये Philippines plate है, and therefore it is tectonically most active region of the world. So you can draw this diagram and then we will write. And where you will find this diagram in the atlas also, you will find this diagram. No need of drawing this triangles, तो मैंने इस diagram में. So we are drawing just one part of this diagram, plate tectonics का only this part of the diagram. Fine, so you can go home and look at this diagram. Which is the deepest point of Indian Ocean? Sunda or Java Trench. Which is the deepest point in the world? Mariana Trench. Which is the second deepest point in the world? Mindanao Trench or Philippines Trench. Hmm? Burmese plate, I have not shown it here. Burmese plate is a small plate here, newly being developed. If we show, it will become too complicated. We have just shown 3 plates. Even your atlas has just shown 3 plates. Open your atlas, page number, जो plate tectonics का page है, that is I guess page number 114 or something, 114 or 119. This way, fine. So Indonesia में, if you can see, the Indian plate is going below the Eurasian plate, क्योंकि कौन सा ज़्यादा denser है? Indian plate. But कुछ part में later on Indian plate के नीचे जा रहा है Pacific plate. The point where Indian plate is going below the Eurasian plate is the subduction zone, which is known as Sunda Trench. And जहाँ पे Pacific plate is going below the Indian plate, आगे जाके न्यूजीलैंड के पास वो यहाँ पे दिखाने की जरूरत नहीं. That is what is known as the Tonga Trench. Getting it? So you will find a trench here. ये पूरा plate boundary we are now drawing. We are studying this. So this is the second island arc region. Fine. कितने islands है इंडोनेशिया में? 3. कौन से? तो why it is the largest island arc? वो तो हम पढ़ते हैं सिर्फ सुमात्रा, जावा and Bali. Indonesia has more than 10,000 islands in that region. That is why it is the world's largest island arc. Fine. It has more than 10,000 islands. Which is the most densely populated island in the world? कौन सा? नहीं, densely populated island proper. माजुली तो एक riverine island है छोटा, जिसके ऊपर जकार्ता located है, the capital of Indonesia, that is Java. Most densely populated island in the world. क्यों? Because it is one of the most fertile. Why it is most fertile? Black soil. Why black soil? Basaltic magma. Getting it? Understanding the relation? अगर it had been andesitic तो ये हिमालय जैसा होता, कुछ नहीं. It is basaltic, that is why. Bali, etc. क्यों जाते हो आप? Tourism. And why tourism? Because it has properly been developed. क्यों properly developed? Agriculture is good over there. Why agriculture is good? All is basalt. Deccan lava वाली soil है उधर. So Indonesia is also famous for cotton, rice. Hawaii is also basaltic. जो magma sea से निकलेगा वो सारा basaltic है. कौन सा? Equator, densely forested. Forested island, Borneo, Indonesia गई. This island, Borneo. Nobody stays there. It belongs to the 3 countries. Borneo Island. बाद में देखना, इंडोनेशिया नीचे है, बीच में मलेशिया है, ऊपर ब्रुनई है. जो समंदर के पास है ओनली देयर पीपल स्टे, बाकी के अंदर पीपल डोंट स्टे बिकॉज इट इज सो डेंसली फॉरेस्टेड. फाइन. सो thus the point of subduction of Indian plate, the point of subduction of Indian plate below the Eurasian and Burma plate, below the Eurasian and Burma plate is known as Java Trench, is known as Java Trench. Mount Krakatoa is located here. Mount Krakatoa is located here. Mount Krakatoa is located here. Why is Mount Krakatoa famous? Most dangerous volcano in the world. Fine. Mount Krakatoa is located here. Similar, next third point. Similarly, the Caribbean island arc. The Caribbean island arc is located at a convergence zone of minor Caribbean plate, with American plates. You can just even write North American plate also. किस डायरेक्शन में जा रही है नॉर्थ अमेरिकन प्लेट? इस डायरेक्शन में. यहाँ पे एक छोटी प्लेट है कैरिबियन. सो बिकॉज द अमेरिकन प्लेट इज मूविंग इन दिस डायरेक्शन, क्या हो रहा है? कैरिबियन प्लेट एंड नॉर्थ अमेरिकन प्लेट का कन्वर्जेंस. बट कैरिबियन प्लेट इज टोटली ओशनिक, इट इज मोर डेंसर. फाइन. The folding of sediments have given rise to numerous islands known as Greater and Lesser Antilles. Numerous islands known as Greater and Lesser Antilles, which includes Cuba, Haiti, 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 etc. Cuba, Haiti, etc. The zone of subduction, the zone of subduction is the deepest point of Atlantic, is the deepest point of Atlantic known as known as Puerto Rico, और कोई भी एक नाम, this is easy, Nares Trench. किसके लिए फेमस है क्यूबा? शुगर, फर्टाइल सॉइल, कैश क्रॉप. कहाँ पे होगा कैश क्रॉप? द रीजन वहाँ जहाँ पे देयर इज अ ब्लैक सॉइल. जमाइका, sugar. Again, this all region is the region of sugar cane, and then obviously steel, वो दूसरा एक concept है. Which one? Yes, Mount Pili is a volcanic mountain, very famous volcanic mountain. दो famous mountains है volcano में. One is most dangerous is Mount Krakatoa, but Mount Krakatoa does not directly kill the people. Mount Pili directly kills the people. Why? Because it is located on the land. Mount Krakatoa is below the ocean. So whenever the Mount Krakatoa erupts, tsunami hoga. But whenever Mount Pili erupts, it has last time erupted in 1810. 1810. दो countries खत्म है world map से when it has erupted. So it gives so much amount of magma. Each and only 2 people survived out of the total population of 2 countries. Mount Pili. Can I continue? See, exam में just make sure अगर आता है तो लिखो ये क्या है. North America, this is South America. अगर नहीं लिखोगे और शेडिंग नहीं करोगे तो ऐसे लगेगा. See, without shading I am drawing. fine. So shading and numbering etc. is important, otherwise it will looks like line. Can I rub this? Can I rub this? So remember, हमेशा अभी इसके बाद यंग फोल्ड माउंटेन्स, आइलैंड आर्क्स, पैसिफिक रिंग ऑफ फायर, क्या कौन सी बाउंड्री? कन्वर्जेंट प्लेट बाउंड्री. ओनली थिंग इज यहाँ पे इफ दे आस्क यू एंडीज, यहाँ पे इफ दे आस्क यू रॉकीज, यहाँ पे यू हैव टू मेंशन अबाउट द नास्का प्लेट, अदरवाइज नॉर्थ अमेरिकन प्लेट, इंडियन प्लेट, प्लेट बाउंड्रीज, आइलैंड, ocean continent convergence or ocean convergence, ocean convergence, ocean convergence. Then continent convergence, continent convergence. Only difference is यहाँ पे volcanoes because the Mediterranean Sea is still remaining. Fine. Then third, divergent plate boundary in the form of mid-oceanic ridges. It goes like this. फिर यहाँ पे जाके this is how the divergent plate boundary is breaking up and it is going this way. Then it goes this way and we find East Pacific rise. So this is what is the mid-oceanic ridge. So jitna Himalayas will go inside, utna there will be spreading. So यहाँ पे there will be crustal shortening, यहाँ पे there will be crustal expansion. Fine. And the African plate and Indian plate are moving in opposite directions. So see, African plate is moving here, Indian plate is moving here. So this is more like a transform plus उसके साथ साथ divergent plate boundary, right? Initially transform था, आज India ऐसे जा रहा है ऊपर and Africa is moving here. So it is more becoming like a divergent plate boundary and therefore यहाँ से Africa is breaking. So in future This is how a new continent will be formed. Just like Madagascar has broken. So this is an example of an rift valley. Earthquakes, zone 1, point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. Volcanoes, point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. Exception here. Fine. So this is all plate tectonics. Mountain building, young. Old, Urals and Appalachians. Fine. Young, baki sare. Understood everything regarding the plate tectonics? Fine. So now a very quick look at the forces. Can I rub this diagram? What do you mean by diastrophic? Very slow, and catastrophic is sudden. Diastrophic are of two types. Continent building, इसको हम कहेंगे एपिरोजेनेटिक. Epiro means large, genetic means origin, and mountain building, that is orogenetic. Continent building, emergence or submergence and subsidence. करना है नहीं करना है, it is not in our syllabus. Orogenetic are of two types: folding, which will give rise to fold mountains, and faulting, which will give rise to block mountains and rift valley. ये specifically करना है नहीं करना है, you should just have an idea what is meant by fold etc. But before I go, किससे? Convergent, divergence. What is this? Convergence, and this is divergence. Fine. Block mountains, rift valleys. Catastrophic are of two types. Fine. So in tomorrow's lecture, we will cover this three very fast. We are not going to do that much in detail except for answers. Earthquakes and plate tectonics, volcanoes and block mountains. हाँ, ये हम separately करेंगे with the example of world. What do you mean by block mountains and rift valleys? Come with the atlas without fail. Atlas लाओगे तो इसके साथ साथ prelims का map pointing हो जाएगा. Last year का question देखो. यही पूछा था, कौन which of them is correctly matched. Mindano Trench पता है Philippines में, तो you know Mindano is Philippines. So bring the atlas, fine, without fail, and give the test within 1 to 3 days so that I can discuss it.